Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, LuckyEevee, Mathmachine, and Jordan. Today is our 49th episode, and we're discussing the 2007 movie D-War, Dragon Wars. So, let's get things started. So this movie started life in a very interesting way. It started off as a sequel to Yongari, which was the only South Korean kaiju movie that was made in the 1960s. It's a really good movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It is like kind of a traditional kaiju movie in some ways, but it does do some other things interesting. But yeah, this movie started life as a sequel to that, but it eventually became its own thing. And this movie was the most expensive movie in South Korean history when it was being made. It cost, no joke, 30 billion won. So, yeah,
which roughly translates to $28 million USD.
So it doesn't seem like a lot, but to there, that was a lot of money. And
yeah, even probably because of inflation and whatnot, but yeah.
But yeah, the movie has a mostly American cast. It was an attempt to try to appeal to an international audience, which, in my opinion, we'll get to in a little bit. I don't think it was very necessary, to be honest. But again, we'll talk about that when it comes. So the movie opens with a series of nice sort of shadow drawings and sketches with a narration that tells us about how every 500 years, a young woman is born who has the power to turn a serpent into a mighty dragon. And right off the bat, the animation is really nice. It really gets you into the world of building and that. And I feel like if the rest of the movie lived up to this prologue, it would have been really, really good. But unfortunately, it does not. Though we do get some good moments. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But basically what happens is that a good dragon would use the power for protection and healing, and an evil one would use it for destruction. The narrator claims that the spirit will be awoken once again, and then we get the title card. And then after the title card, we get our first glimpse at the first very bad CGI helicopter that we will see, of which there are many, many more. And again, the one thing about this movie is the effects are very hit and miss. You have like the actual dragons and that look fantastic. Then you have stuff like the vehicles that look like stuff from PS2 renderings.
Yeah.
I am convinced that what happened is that they spent the majority of their money on the American cast. So they just did not have the funds to actually CG that well, other than a couple of things.
Yeah, I think that's exactly. And it's something that, again, I feel is unnecessary because, and we'll get to that in a little bit, it's something that I feel like they were trying to chase a Western audience, but they didn't really need to. I feel like people would have gone to seek this out if it was all Korean, Korean actors, and this was set in Seoul. I don't think it would have been that big of a gap, but maybe that's just me. But yeah, the movie takes place in Los Angeles, and it begins at a dig site. A man tries to warn them that they have awoken a beast and that the end of the world is near, and this entire part right here really reminds me of that movie Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones, with the people protesting the subway and stuff like that. And, Tommy Lee Jones, the volcanologist and things like that. It really does have that kind of feel to it, like of a 90s disaster movie type of feel.
Yeah, it kind of checks out.
Yeah. So Ethan, who is a news reporter, he attempts to find out what's going on, but he's driven away by two guards and that. He stays, and he secretly records a video of the FBI uncovering what appears to be a set of scales. We then cut back to Ethan's office, where he repeatedly rewatches the footage that he took. And this is the first of many weird occurrences that we do get in this movie, is that we get like a 2-second flashback of a young Ethan opening a chest and being blasted with some kind of magic. Then Ethan stares down at his dragon medallion on his chest, and then we go back into the flashback. So you flashed back for 10 seconds, like as a precursor to something that we're already gonna see. It doesn't make sense at all. But yeah, the flashback occurs 15 years earlier with a younger Ethan in an antique shop. His father attempts to sell a dagger to Jack, the owner, and Ethan comes across a chest. And the effects of the lock falling off, again, it really doesn't look good. And I think it's like what Math said, that they ran out of budget for a lot of this. So they had to pretty much just scrape and try to save as much as they could just to have this render decently. But yeah, then we get the footage that we literally just saw of basically the chest opening itself, revealing the dragon scales and blasting Ethan with the magic. It reminds me of this one joke from this Leslie Nielsen movie where like Leslie Nielsen jumps up and scares a guy. It turns out to be an old friend, and then Leslie goes, "Oh, that reminds me of good old times." And then it literally just shows the exact same scene or like that happened 5 seconds earlier. It's like that, but it's done seriously.
Indeed.
So yeah, it's also kind of like how that one Russian animated movie that we just talked about did a clip show of the movie at the end of the movie, but here they decided to just scrap that idea and do it at the beginning.
Exactly. And yeah, what happens is Jack apparently is starting to have a heart attack. He tells Ethan's father to go to a nearby shop, and he'll pay the man $1,000 for what he's trying to sell. And his father runs off, and then it's revealed that Jack was faking his heart attack. Ethan, it turns out, saw a scale from an emoji. Forgive me if I am pronouncing this wrong.
An emoji.
Emoji, thank you. I'm not very well versed in Korean, unfortunately. And the light from the box was a heavenly light. And that Jack basically fills Ethan and, of course, the Western audience that an emoji is a creature from Korean legend that can turn into a dragon. He basically gives us the backstory that emojis live in heaven, and every 500 years an emoji is rewarded for good deeds with the chance to become a celestial dragon. Sadly, we are not talking about the Celestia dragon. That would be a crossover with Friendship is Magic. But yeah,
they were deprived something.
Yeah, that would have been way better. But regardless, basically the emoji, in order to transform, they need a gift from the again, forgive me about pronunciation, the Yu Yi Zhu, an individual who has the power to turn an emoji into a celestial dragon. And it turns out there was an evil emoji by the name of Burakai who wants the power for himself. Now, one thing I'm curious about is if they played this entire portion in South Korea, or if it was just meant for Western audiences, if this was like an insert of sorts. And the reason I ask this is because now we get a flashback within a flashback. It's flashbackception here, people. Yeah, the movie is now set in Korea in the 1500s, and Heaven basically sent down its two best warriors to protect the Yu Yi Zhu, but Burakai also knows where it is. Ethan asks Jack basically what he's talking about, and it's at this point with the version I saw of this movie, the subtitles for this part, there are no subtitles in the actual base movie. The online video player had subtitles, and these subtitles were incredibly poorly translated. Like, at one point, it was mixing Spanish and English together in the same line of dialogue, so it was kind of hard to follow, but I probably did my best to get the gist of it, so forgive us if the notes aren't as detailed as they should be for this section, but none of us know Korean, and they did not give subtitles, and the subtitles that we did get were very poorly done. So what happens basically is the old master realizes that something is going to happen. A woman has died giving birth, but her daughter would become the Yu Yi Zhu, and when she would be 20 years old, the Yu Yi Zhu would be able to turn the emoji into the dragon when it basically possesses her body. The old master visits the woman's father, and he basically warns him that Burakai plans on using her to conquer the world. Time passes, and we see the old man's assistant grow from a boy to a young man, and he falls in love with the Yu Yi Zhu. We then get a brief part with the old master and his assistant training, and it kind of becomes a semi-kung fu movie for a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has that type of Shaw Brothers styling to it. And basically what happens is they're training in that, they go to the water, and they see the emoji appear in it. and that, of course, the Yu has to fuse with the Imugi to become a celestial dragon, and that leaves the old master's assistant heartbroken. The old master gives his assistant the medallion that Ethan has, and he basically tells his assistant that it'll ward him against all evil. We then get to see Burukai sending his armies to the village to find the Yu, and again, the army, some of which are actual guys in suits, some of which are like CGI creatures, and again, they don't look the best. They attack the village with cannons and they destroy it, and despite the best army of the the best efforts of the Korean army, the army of Burukai manages to invade the village, and this entire part, I don't know if this was intentional or not, this is extremely similar to the Helm's Deep portion of the Two Towers.
Kind of.
Yeah, it did really, really reminded me of it a lot in a lot of ways. Maybe it was unintentional, but it definitely, there were some shots there that seemed very reminiscent of it.
I do a little bit more of Minas Tirith a little bit.
That's the one I was thinking of. Sorry about that. Yeah, Minas Tirith, that's the one I was thinking of.
Reminded of the Gungan battle in Star Wars Episode 1.
That too.
Because of the creature designs.
Yeah.
That very much too, especially the creatures with the dragons fused to their backs, which again, I don't know if they're part of Korean mythology or not. If you're listening to this and you would know about that, we would be very interested in hearing about that. But yeah.
I would also like to say that the Star Wars Episode 1 battle took place nearly a decade earlier, and that looked better than this.
Oh, this, and then again, it is such a shame that, like, the creatures with the cannons fused to their back, they look awful. Absolutely awful. They are way too shiny. It's like, they didn't even render, like, I think, shadows on them at one point, and it really is a shame, because you can really tell that they really, I think, overextended themselves too much. But what happens with this flashback is the army searched through all the women to find the one with the dragon mark, which of course makes her the Yu Yeji. They basically the army
movie, not an R movie. They didn't rip that much shirt.
Yeah, exactly. It says, go ahead.
Nah, it's good.
No, go ahead. It's all good. So yeah, what happens is the army kill the Yu Yeji's father, and they drag her off into the woods before the old master and assistant arrive to fight them off, and the assistant brings the Yu Yeji to a clearing while we get to see the old master fight them off in pretty decent fight choreography. I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty decent, all things considered. The old master is basically fatally wounded, and he finds the medallion, and it turns out the assistant is running off with the Yu Yeji. He wants to stop her from transforming. We finally get to see Burukai, who, again, looks really good. I feel like Burukai and, of course, the good Imugi, who has a secret that we'll talk about later, I feel like those two were the ones that they put all the budget into. Mm-hmm. Them and the other dragon that we get to see in a little while as well. Because they look...
had enough common sense to do that.
Yeah, they were the standouts of the movie, and it's clear that they put all the effort into them, and I think it worked out. Basically, what happened is the two of them leap into the ocean and commit suicide together. So Burukai can not turn into a celestial dragon and rule the world. And it's here that the flashback ends. The first flashback, mind you. We still have to deal with the second flashback. Basically, Jack explains that he and Ethan are the reincarnations of the old master and his assistant. And apparently there will be a reincarnation of the Yu Yeji as well. Her name will be Sarah, and when she turns 20, Ethan will have to take her to the Great Cave, basically. So what happened is Burukai was denied the power to rule, and all these centuries later, he's basically waiting for the chance to rule. And now we finally finish the second flashback. This flashback goes on for almost 20 minutes. So it definitely feels like some kind of padding was done, you know? It felt like we have to get this to feature length somehow.
It definitely felt a little longer.
Go back to the Korean movie.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I wondered. I really wondered if they always meant it to be just the Korean movie with the Korean actors and maybe with English subtitles. It would have been perfectly suitable. But I feel like they tried chasing a trend that, let's be honest, I feel like for 2007, I mean, you had The Host, which was an excellent, excellent movie, but I don't know how much mainstream audiences were ready for this kind of thing, basically.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Also, I will personally admit I am kind of guilty of doing this as well in some of my stories, which kind of hit a little bit with this movie, not gonna lie.
Yeah. But then now we finally get back to modern times to see Ethan runs into his friend and cameraman, Bruce, who's played by the only actor that I actually recognize in this thing, Craig Robinson, who is best known for probably being in Hot Tub Time Machine and The Office and a lot of other stuff. Oh, one thing, Jack's actor was also the captain in the 1979 Disney movie The Black Hole, so that's something else I've seen. But yeah, Craig Robinson basically was the only actor I saw, and I was like, oh yeah, I know that guy. The rest of the cast were mostly made up of unknowns or people that did not do that much big name work, let's do it that way. So yeah, basically Ethan tries explaining to Bruce that he has to find the girl linked to the accident, which comes really out of nowhere because the beginning sequence doesn't look like an accident of any kind. It looked more like an archaeological dig site. It makes me wonder if they had a more of a prologue added to it, but then they cut it out for budgetary reasons, but they left the dialogue in. So it definitely is something that, again, feels kind of like a little bit of a plot hole to me. Not a big one, but it's something like this, wait, what accent are they talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, we then cut to Sarah, who of course is the reincarnation of the Yu Ye Zhu at a gym with her friend. She watches a news broadcast that Ethan is doing before she sees the scales, and instantly she runs out of the gym and she returns to her apartment before she pulls out a book with Korean writing. We then cut a really random cutaway to the scales being studied in a laboratory, and we get Elizabeth Pena here. She was Mirage in The Incredibles, and she did a bunch of other work as well. She plays an FBI agent that really has nothing to do with the story. Again, this feels like something that's oh, we have to get Western actors for this movie to make it appeal to a Western audience, when this whole subplot with the FBI agents, it does have a conclusion, but it's a very stupid one, and we'll get to that.
So yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. We then cut back to Jack at his antique store meditating. A very strange looking man. He has a metallic hands and white hair. Basically, the first time I saw him, my first thought was, oh hey, he's supposed to be like Jaws from James Bond.
It kind of reminds me a bit of that one villain that's not Bowser from the Mario Bros, honestly.
Oh yeah, I can see that too from the movie, yeah. What happens is he basically walks through a gate to get into the building, and then we get a bizarre, comedy moment with a woman trying to do the same thing and just bumping against it and then walking away in confusion, which is on one hand, I get it, but the way it's delivered is just so weird.
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty funny, and my guess is that she was either senile or just oh, that's interesting. I didn't know this was a fake hologram. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly. But then we cut back to Sarah, who has basically covered her entire apartment with Korean writing, much to the shock of her friend. She claims that something is going to happen and she needs protection. So now they're, I guess, ripping off Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is important. This means something. That's the first thing I thought about when I thought this. I thought, oh god, she's gonna go to Devil's Tower now, but no, we do not get that.
Honestly, I hear that and I think of that one scene from UHF.
Oh god, yeah, they parodied in that too. Yeah, what happens is her friend convinced Sarah to go out for drinks, but Sarah is still very distant at this time. She leaves and she's accosted by 3 drunk guys outside the bar. Then we get to see Jack show up, and he easily beats up the 3 guys before walking off. And it's here we get another subplot added to the amount of subplots we already have. We see Yeah, we see a zoo. A guard is woken up, and he basically sees the elephants being attacked by a serpent-like dragon. The guard watches on in horror before the dragon tries to chase him away, and a man watches evilly. Now, this guy is not the same guy with the white hair and the metallic gloves that we talked about earlier. This is a completely different, I guess, henchman type. They don't really make clear who this guy is, unfortunately.
He's basically a soldier or something like that.
Yeah, of Burakai's army, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The movie then cuts to a police station as Sarah tries to describe what happened with three men and Jack. A random news reporter shows up and tries getting the story before being pushed away, which will come into play later. And we then cut to Ethan arriving at Jack's Antiques, only for the mysterious man to basically attack him. He makes the antiques come to life, and they all start attacking Ethan before, in a really lame cop-out, this is all a dream. It's like, you have an idea of something interesting happening. It's going to be like some big mystic, force battle. And then, nope, he just wakes up. It was all a dream. And they actually, this is not the first time they do this bit in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They do the same thing with Sarah.
Yep. So Bruce tells them that he has over 2,700 candidates, and they have no sign of who she is. And it's here that they probably did this so they could find some way of Ethan and Sarah finding out about each other. The reporter at the police station shows up, and he tells them about what happens with Sarah. And again, this feels like they needed some way to actually have Ethan find out about this woman, and they thought this was the best way they could do it. And then we cut back to the zoo guard who was talking to the police about what happened last night. He thinks it was a snake, but of course it was like a serpentine-esque dragon. Of course, the cops don't believe him. And then we cut to Sarah in a parking garage, heading to a car, and we get a really cool effect, especially for this movie. She puts the keys in, and the car starts growing scales and growling, which, again, really cool concept right there. She runs away from it, but she bumps into a police officer who pulls out a glowing sword and he lunges at her. And you think that, oh god, what's going to happen next? And again, this is a dream sequence. So that's twice in the span of like 15 minutes. They did it was all just a dream fake out. So
2 times.
Yeah, and so close to each other too. So basically, Sarah calls 911. She's taken to the hospital, and her friend goes to see her in the hospital, but she's turned away. We then cut back to the newsroom as we see Ethan and Bruce trying to find out about Sarah and that. Bruce tries telling Ethan that it's all a fantasy story and asks if he truly believes out of it. And then we get Sarah's friend and her boyfriend are basically arguing about things they could get for Sarah, but they go outside and they see a dragon. Not the same one that attacked the elephants, by the way, a different style of dragon, drinking out of their swimming pool when they step outside, which, okay, now we're adding Jurassic Park, The Lost World to stuff like that, the part with the T-Rex in San Diego. So Sarah's boyfriend runs off, and we don't find out what happens to him. We see the man with the glowing sword, but we don't actually get confirmation about what happened to him. What happens is Sarah's friend is eaten by the dragon. She's picked up, and at least she's bitten by it. And we get to see the Imugi from earlier, from the Korean flashback, appear inside the pool water. Sarah wakes up in the hospital, but she's locked outside of her room with a guard standing outside. Ethan and Bruce attempt to find the right Sarah, and we find out her full name is Sarah Daniels. Sarah attempts to fight off the doctors and the staff, which only causes her to look completely insane. And then we get Ethan and Bruce arriving to Sarah's friend's house to find her corpse being collected, which, by the way, looks almost completely unharmed for someone that was, like, bitten in half by a dragon. It's like, they do it, and it's like, it would be like if she was, like, stabbed by a knife or something like that, not, like, torn to pieces in that.
Yeah, it's unless, like, the body was, like, put back together on the thing.
That's definitely seemed like it was like, they actually show her being like ripped by the dragon, and then they show her body and it's like completely fully intact. I mean, definitely, definitely a little bit of a thing there. So what
I
happens
joked
is
that the CG budget must have been a few pennies and the goodwill of some programmers. There was absolutely no makeup budget.
no, her body is literally just like it looks nothing like people get attacked, but they don't even get really hurt or anything, and you'll see more of that in a little bit. But yeah. Ethan then goes to the hospital to find out what happens to her, and he uses his press confidentials and that. It turns out she's under quarantine, as Ethan attempts to see her regardless. We then get a comedy question mark sequence where we see the zoo guard in a straitjacket trying to tell them his story.
Honestly, that's pretty funny. Like the thing
it
in
is,
this,
I guess, but I
like,
think the timing was off on it a little bit.
a little
Yes.
bit maybe, but still, it was pretty funny. Just like it going from him telling the guys, "Hey, there's this giant freaking serpent," to him just ending up in a freaking hospital in a straitjacket. Which,
Yeah.
man.
Exactly. And then we get probably one of the, and this movie is a very strange movie. This moment right here might be in the top 3 strangest moments of the movie. Ethan sees a doctor. Basically, he asks the doctor about it, and he says that, oh, she's under quarantine. Ethan says, oh, I'm Ethan so-and-so. And then the doctor says, oh, you're that reporter. I'm a big fan. I'll take you to see her, no problem.
Actually, correction. That was the doctor later after he talks to the person at the front desk. The person at the front desk.
Sorry. My apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does happen though. And that is such a strange moment that this guy is like, oh, you're a celebrity. You can go and see our, mental patient. That's perfectly fine.
That's just Jack in disguise. Don't worry.
It was weird when it happened too. I'm glad they did sort of explain it.
Yeah, it was basically Jack in disguise.
Yeah, that was a good idea. Yeah. But what happens is we cut again to the zoo guard. He tries telling the head doctor about what he saw and that there's the dragon outside the window. Of course, the doctor turns around and the dragon isn't there, and they think he's crazy in that comedy bit.
Yeah.
And then the dragon starts attacking the hospital, and Ethan tells Sarah that they're both involved in something bigger than both of them as they meet each other. The doctor then returns to evacuate her as the dragon bursts through. And again, the dragon at this point, it looks really good as it rampages throughout the hospital and that. They really did go with the lighting, with the shadows, with basically the effects on it.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, but later on, of course, it does not look so good. Just when Ethan and Sarah, they make it to Bruce's car, the dragon smashes into the parking garage, basically chasing them down. And again, the dragon looks fantastic. At least decent. The concrete being destroyed looks way worse. And the problem is you have a really good rendered dragon running on like really poorly rendered concrete. It kind of breaks the illusion. And this also happens when the dragon bursts out of the garage and it kills the parking attendant, apparently. When it's outside, the lighting effects on it looks way too shiny. It's like they cranked it up to 11 on it, that you can tell it's just a model at that point.
Indeed.
Yeah. So Bruce then panics over the dragon, basically that it's real. And then he accidentally hits the white-haired man from earlier that was in Jack's antique shop. It turns out that the man has the suit of armor morph onto him, and Ethan realizes that it's the guy from his dream. Bruce steps out of the car, and he basically tries to shoot the man to no effect, which, I mean, what did you think would happen? The guy is covered in armor from head to toe, but my revolver will surely stop him.
Indeed.
But yeah, Ethan attempts to beat the man with a wooden board, but it breaks. We then get a kind of, I guess, creative moment where Bruce steals the man's sword, and he attempts to use it, but he can't figure out how it works. We then get the man approaching Bruce menacingly, and he actually electrocutes the guy. But then another car appears, and it runs over the man again. And now we get another subplot with the government agency, where they find out about Sarah and how they must find her and that. The man from earlier that got ran over, he meets up with a group of fellow soldiers, and they conjure up various dragons. The dragon from earlier bursts out of the warehouse and roars. The the person who drove the car that rescued Ethan and Sarah is Jack in disguise yet again, which, again, a nice touch. They did do that. They did explain that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens is Ethan basically explains a little bit more of the story to Sarah as they walk on the beach. And we then cut back to the government agency where they basically tell us what we already know. They are repeating exposition at this point.
Well, they don't know that.
Yeah, I know they don't know that, but I feel like there was a way they could do that without making it so obvious that they're just repeating the exposition of things.
It feels like one of those scenes that this was made first before they decided to do the full 20-minute Korean movie.
Yes, exactly. What happens is they plan to capture Sarah and use military force on the, quote, giant snake, unquote. What happens is the military are sent to a cavern where the dragon appears and basically kills them all. We then get to see the soldiers fight with Burakai's army to no avail, and it's here we get a really neat effect that I think actually was practical. The head soldier waves his sword and he sets the soldiers on fire. I really think that was a practical stunt because the way he waves his hands, the flames shoot up immediately. I don't think it was rendered there. I think it really was actually open flame on this set, which, again, really nice touch that they did that. And we get, yeah. Basically, Ethan takes Sarah to a hypnotherapist. We don't know this game. We don't know his name rather. We don't know how Ethan
I think they took him
him.
to Jack. I could be wrong.
I don't think so because this guy dies actually. He's killed when the snake destroys his house. But yeah, we basically see flashbacks of Sarah's past with both of her parents' death and that, and then we cut back to 1500s Korea again. Basically, what happens is it's a scene with the Yu Ye-ju and the old master's assistant. The Yu Ye-ju says that I'll meet you in the next life to the assistant as they jump to their deaths. Sarah then starts levitating off the couch, but she is not possessed by either Pazuzu or Zool in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ethan is watching on in shock, and basically the dragon then arrives at the hypnotherapist's house. It destroys it and kills the hypnotherapist, and the two of them run off. Ethan steals a car from a delivery driver as another dragon chases them and kills the driver. Ethan then calls Bruce, and we see Bruce with a bandage from his attack, which, I mean, this guy electrocuted him. Like, he did like Emperor Palpatine, unlimited power level of like electricity. He should have more than just like a bandage on his head, you know?
Yeah, that makes...
I would like to repeat, no makeup budget at all.
No, not at all. They like slapped a bandage on and said, okay, that's it, makeup's over, moving on. So yeah, basically Ethan asks Bruce if there's a way they can get a flight, and the government agents basically are talking about the dragon attacking the town and how they're still looking for Sarah. Bruce uses his influences to get them a helicopter, and Ethan plans to get them someplace safe. They plan to basically hide out in a series of very tall buildings and to keep as mobile as possible. Bruce then talks to Ethan, and he gives him his gun. And it's here that Ethan finally realizes that Sarah is the Yu Ye-ju, and he tries to get her to change her fate. And then, of course, Jack appears out of nowhere to tell him that he can't fight fate, and it's Sarah's destiny to transform. That the fate of the world depends on them getting Sarah to the sacred cave, wherever that is. And again, we do not actually see the sacred cave in this film, so what it looks like, we will never know.
Indeed.
So the dragon appears once more and attacks the restaurant by destroying it before it turns its attention towards them. Bruce basically gets them in his car and he drives away before, in a really cool effect, the dragon picks up a car in its mouth and it throws it at them and it blocks the way. Ethan and Sarah manage to get out, but Bruce is knocked unconscious. The dragon approaches them menacingly, but the cops show up and they yeah, it's standing there menacingly. That's its maniac shriek. But yeah, basically the police open fire on the dragon and it turns its attention towards them, which Ethan and Sarah used to get away. We then get cut back to the white-haired man again, and he's speaking Korean. His speech basically boils down to, we must find the Yuye-ju for Burakai, and a troop of dragons fly out of the castle while the white-haired man's army prepares for battle. The dragon from earlier that attacked the restaurant begins attacking LA, and the cars collapse onto each other, and again, a practical effect, because these are actually cars being dropped on top of each other, and it looks good, because again, it's really there. It's real cars being destroyed in that. Basically, Ethan and Sarah make it to the building, but the dragon notices them and climbs it up. And again, as the dragon has no limbs, it looks more like a snake, so it's like coiling around the building, which is a really neat effect. The two of them make it into the escape helicopter, but the dragon begins attacking it. Sarah and Ethan just barely manage to jump out, but the dragon crashes it to the ground, which really reminded me a little bit of King Kong. More so the King Kong 70s version, when Kong's on the World Trade Center, he destroys the helicopters there.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. As soon as I saw the snake wrapped around the building and then it falling, I was like, I've seen this movie before.
Exactly. It's like the 1970s version of King Kong. So,
kind of reminds me of that too. It also, oh man, I was gonna say something. Oh right. It also kind of reminds me a bit of the 1998 Godzilla scene of Godzilla humping the.
Oh, we will get more. We will get a lot more similarities to 1998 Godzilla. Because the dragon then lunges after them before it's stopped by the military. The military helicopters are destroyed by the dragon, and again, these look absolutely terrible. These look like, again, unfinished models, and like Matt said, and I don't want to beat like a broken record at this point, but it really is such a shame how bad this looks, especially because
I'm not exaggerating when I say these could have been Lego figures and they would have looked better.
Yes. This is stuff that I think 1995 probably would have been able to render these helicopters better than this. So what happens is the winged dragons arrive to destroy the rest of the helicopters while the army march to the streets. The police fight off the army while the military attack the dragons, and at this point, I came to a horrible realization.
What?
This is just basically Michael Bay's Transformers. With the shot of like the military men shooting at like the Decepticons, you have them smashing against each other. It really feels like every single final climatic fight scene of the Michael Bay Transformer franchise in this movie. It really has that vibe to it.
And I think the Michael Bay Transformers came out after this movie.
It might have, but it really does remind me of it because it's a lot of close-up of guys with guns screaming, and then it cuts to like CGI dragons and things like that, and it really, really is tedious. It drags on, and drag on, dragon. But seriously, it felt like 5 hours of like the military versus the dragons. This felt like padding, and it really shouldn't have. I mean, you look at like Godzilla 98. Okay, that movie might not be the best, but at least it knew, I think, when to build tension. When to have like actual chase scenes and action and things like that. You could actually feel the action. This just feels like they just slapped it together in an afternoon, some of these action scenes.
And the main issue is it keeps jumping everywhere. So in the time span that they're showing all this, you can't really focus on anything. You're just like, okay, here's a scene. Now here's another scene. Now here's another scene. And it keeps going like that. It's like, I can't follow any of this shit. It's too much.
Exactly. Exactly right. Yeah, that is exactly right there. Yeah. So what happens is the government agents then arrive, and they're mentioning they're searching for the Yuye-ju. As the battle rages on, the government agents find Sarah and Ethan, and they force them into the car. We then get to hear a Wilhelm scream when the dragon picks up a police officer and throws him into a car. So
nice.
They reuse
it's actually the second Wilhelm scream because the first was in the Korean movie with a villager that got squished on.
Yeah, I heard that.
Oh, I did not hear that. Yeah. So we do get a admittedly really badass sequence where one of the dragons is killed when a helicopter that's on fire just rams into it. And that alone is a really cool sight, and it looks decent enough, I think. You know, that's like one moment where it's like, okay, you had one cool moment in this entire fight scene. So what happens is the government agents have put Ethan and Sarah into a warehouse. One of the government agents wants to shoot Sarah despite Ethan's protest. Ethan is shot by the one FBI agent who basically says that, oh, this will happen 500 years. We'll know what to do with it then. The other government agent kills the one who wants to shoot Sarah and lets them go, allowing to use his car. And again, this is completely pointless. Because they solves nothing. It literally is, oh, I'm gonna shoot her to stop the dragons, and the other FBI agent is, I'm gonna shoot you to stop you from shooting her, and he shoots the other FBI agent dead. It feels like something that, again, the script maybe had more with these characters, more tension, more. I don't even know these guys' names. You know, that's why I'm calling them government agents, because I don't even think they say these guys' names once in the movie.
I think they did. I just didn't hear it.
No, if they did, I didn't hear it either. They must have said it only like once or twice.
Yeah.
So what happens is the two of them drive off into the country. They bond with each other for a little bit before the dragons attack, and basically they knock Ethan out. When Ethan awakes, he finds himself tied to a pole in some kind of, I don't know where this is, other realm or something? This reminded me of like the Mortal Kombat movie when they go to like the other realm. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
A temple in the bowels of hell, for all we could know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it really is out of nowhere too, because this is nowhere connected to the rest of the movie.
I want to make this clear. The entire time, this big bad lizard is trying to eat her right away. But now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it decides to get and take the time to drag these people to its shrine.
Yes. That is like villain stupidity right there. And what happens is Burukai comes out of the castle and prepares to take over. Ethan screams, and you're thinking about, oh, how is Ethan going to get out of this one? And we get one of the most dumbest Deus Ex Machinas in any sort of movie. Ethan's medallion glows, and it releases a sky beam. And the sky beam kills the entire army except for the leader. The entire army, including their dragons, including the ones with the cannons on their backs, all of them are just hit by the beam and instantly disintegrate. It is like such a cop-out. It was like they wrote themselves into a corner and they had no idea how to get out of this.
Guys like Machina, always comes in handy.
Yep. So the leader claims that he'll kill Ethan himself. He engaged in a sword fight. And again, the leader's death is pathetic too, because he stabs the medallion, which kills him instantly. Burukai rises up and prepares to kill them before the Imugi from earlier arrives. The two of them fight, and Sarah steps forward. A ball of light emerges from her before it strikes the Imugi, which turns into the celestial dragon. Now, the reason we're covering this on this show, because it's not really a traditional dragoness transformation, but it is her essence, her spirit, going into the celestial dragon, making it a dragoness. It's very flimsy pretext, I know, but I think for this show, it still works.
It's flimsy pretext for a flimsy movie, so it works.
Yeah, it's just that too. So the celestial dragon basically looks like a traditional depiction of an Eastern dragon, and its CGI looks good for the time. You know, the one thing, at least the copy I saw, the lighting was very dark, so it was hard to see the fight at times.
Yep, that was an issue I saw too.
I don't know if it was like intentional or if it was just the copy we had of it, but it really
just fine. For
the
most part.
The two of them battle it out for some time, again, with some good effects, and this is where they put all of the money into, was this moment right here. This is basically where they put all of their money into, was this fight sequence. And it's a good one. The celestial dragon eventually wins by setting Burakai on fire and killing him. We then get the celestial dragon basically go towards Ethan and look at him in surprise as Ethan is cradling Sarah's dead body. Her body then vanishes as the celestial dragon watches on. Her spirit then appears next to the dragon, and Sarah claims that they will meet again in another life. Her spirit is then devoured by the celestial dragon before the celestial dragon, she soars off into the heavens. Jack then appears before Ethan, and he tells him it was a great honor before disappearing, so I guess he's been dead the whole time. And the movie
I wouldn't
ends,
doubt that he was.
Yeah. The movie ends with Ethan saying goodbye to Jack and just walking off into the desert, which, again, we have no idea where where he even is. Is he even in the same dimension right now? I feel like he's gonna run into like Ash Williams there. I slept too long.
Honestly, kind of reminds me of this one game that has a very bizarre premise. It's basically a Japanese game where you go through this place as several people stuck in this alternate horror dimension, and like one of them just remains behind to like freaking go nuts. It's bizarre, and honestly, it's a little more nonsensical than this movie, but yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, definitely. So what happened? D-Wars was not a financial flop by any stretch of the imagination, but it did not become the gigantic franchise that its producer wanted. The producer of this movie was absolutely convinced this was going to be huge. That's why he got the Western actors. That's why he had like a big marketing campaign.
They said the same thing about Lego Zoobles or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can see how that went.
The other one.
Yeah.
The second package.
A sequel has been in development since 2016, apparently, but no news about it at all has been confirmed. And this movie in general, I feel it's just okay. It's mediocre. It's not the best thing I've seen. It's not the worst. It could have been a lot better. I feel like if they found a way to put a little bit more effort into it, it would have been fantastic. But for the most part, I don't think it's going to work out, unfortunately. How do you guys feel about this?
It's just new to her. Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's this weird case where they were trying to absolutely westernize this thing, and I get why they did, but when this came out, it didn't really need that. Godzilla was an insanely popular franchise by this point in the West. We had already gotten a bunch of anime movies and other such things. The Western world was open to the idea of Asian film, so why this was needed to be made in a Western style, I don't understand.
Exactly right. That is. It feels like what they wanted to do originally was the Korean section of the movie, and maybe it would have a modern sequence set in modern day Seoul or something like that. But the thing is, I feel like trying to chase an audience that, let's be honest, really probably wouldn't have gotten into this because of that. I feel like they really shot themselves in the foot that way. They really could have made it better, and sadly, they did not.
Indeed.
They would have had a decent audience if they had stuck to a traditional Korean movie. By trying to Americanize it, they were left with no audience.
Yeah, exactly. So, now it is time for the question of the week, which is, what is your favorite live-action Asian movie? Which probably, spoiler alert, is going to be just us talking about kaiju movies. Of course, I am a big kaiju fan. You know, Godzilla, Gamera, even the more obscure ones like Gappa and what's the one, Guyaya. I like. I think also a really underrated movie from Asia live action that's really good. I mentioned it earlier was The Host from South Korea. That is such a great, fantastic movie. The way they do it, and especially like with the appearance of the monster in that. It really is well done. Of course, we have a Snowpiercer, who a lot of people probably don't even know was made there, but that's another excellent movie. I haven't seen Parasite yet. I want to, but I just haven't had the time to. But yeah, I'm really going to go with, I think, The Host for my favorite because I like Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer is great and all, but I just feel like there's something about The Host that's just so good. It really is. I think what it is, it's the design of the monster combined with the whole atmosphere of the movie in a way. It has kind of a claustrophobia to it that really works out for the best. So,
yeah, I can see that.
What would you have to say?
Boy, Asian films. I mean, there's two Japanese films I really enjoyed, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to give this to Kung Fu Hustle. I think it's pretty much safe to say that the description of Kill Bill meets Looney Tunes is more than accurate for this because
That
good
undersells
lord.
it, honestly.
Well, it's still pretty fun. The action's fun. The characters are fun. It's bizarre as all heck, but it is entertainingly bizarre. And I really enjoyed all the stuff that went on in it. Oh man, just the wacky chase scenes, the freaking techniques that they use. Just oh man, there's this really clever segment where they use I don't want to call it a biwa. I don't know what the instrument is, but basically they use slicing sounds to decapitate their enemies, and it is. Oh man, it is very clever what they do with that.
That is an excellent choice right there. I cannot believe I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Math, what would you have to say?
Mine is probably going to be a shock, and you'll probably remember this after hearing about it. The live-action Death Note movies. Please note,
Wait.
I am not talking about the Netflix one.
Thank you.
I see. Not the Netflix one.
Okay.
These were
Not the one with Willem
released
Dafoe.
around the time of the actual Death Note anime.
I remember that actually. I didn't see it, but I remember it coming out around that time.
It was a couple of movies that were made to follow the Death Note plot, and for the sole reason of the actor that they got to play L absolutely understood the homework.
They got who to play L?
Method with L. He actually sat like L for a couple of months. He lived on L's diet. He admitted that he got sick a lot because of that.
I'm sorry.
He
Which actor?
fully embraced the character, and he was easily the best character in it.
Okay, who was the actor?
Let me look that up because we're talking 2007 Japanese cinema. That's a obscure thing. He was so popular that he actually got his own spin-off movie.
Oh, that's interesting.
I vaguely remember watching the Japanese live movie of Death Note, and that I kind of like. But when Netflix came over and took it over, I'm like, you just killed it for me.
Kenichi Matsuyama, for the record.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Nice.
What was that?
Matsuyama was the name of the actor who played L in the live-action Death Note movies.
First name again?
Kenichi
Matsuyama. Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that, and that's pretty interesting that he did.
Yeah, that definitely sounds. I haven't seen it. I'll probably check it out sometime.
L absolutely steals the show. He is the best part of that. So it's the anime all over again. And they did actually change between the two movies. They changed the plot of the anime so that it ends with L rather than going on to the two new guys who just did not work as well.
That's actually good. I really like when adaptations actually be more pragmatic like that.
Indeed.
Yes.
It also kind of reminds me of oh, never mind. I really I want to watch Death Note, but I, like many other animes, I could not get past the first episode, mainly because my attention kind of waned a little bit. But who knows? I might watch Death Note again.
Yep, that's a good one. So, Jordan, what would you have to say is yours?
Oh, mine's kind of simple. Everyone knows the Legend of the Monkey King, and I'm like, okay, I know who he is. So I found this Korean or Japanese 3-movie pick. They started out with different. It started with the first movie, like how he wrecked the heavens, how the Monkey King started, and how he came to be, and it's called Monkey King Wrecked the Heavens. And I'm like hooked on it. It's beautifully done. And then they made 2 more of the same studio that made the first one, and they made 2 more, and I'm like, I'm hooked. And I love how it tells the story of the Monkey King, how he meets the priest and the other companions of his journey.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Is this the 1960s Dong Hwa movie?
I think so, yes. I have all 3 of them in my collection.
The old school animated movies?
No, these are live action.
Oh, okay. And they just have the same
Something
title.
the studio is, I can't remember it all. I don't have my DVD set with me, but it's just really good. On like the actors who played the Monkey King are brilliant. Done the stories of heaven and hell fighting for
Nice,
right.
nice.
Honestly, Journey to the West is very iconic for a reason.
Yep, it is iconic. Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's really hard to say what it is, but it really is. There's something about that story that's just universal, I feel.
Yeah, and like I said, the first one again, it just tells like how he became to be and how he had to learn his way until he did screw around with Buddha and heaven, and he got held down on Earth for so long waiting for this right priest. And again, it still shows him like, okay, I'm the best, I am the number one. But then he learns compassion and understanding more and more. Like he has to follow the rules no matter what. You have to do it no matter what and understand people's lives in the second one. And it's just you understand Monkey and everyone else around him. Like Pigsy's still a pervert no matter what, but it's just good.
Exactly.
Oh, I think I found it. The Monkey King Havoc in Heaven's Palace with Chow Yun-Fat.
Yep.
Oh.
Ooh, interesting.
And again, it's the same studio that did the first one. They did second and third of the story. They may have cut off a couple like huge things, but it still connects. Like they talked about their journey they did to get to find these sacred scrolls and everything else, and it's still there.
I know this one. I haven't seen it, but it is very interesting that you bring that up.
It's really good. I recommend watching it again and again just for like laughs and kicks.
Nice.
It's got Donnie Yen and Chow Yun-Fat. Like, this sounds like a really good movie.
It is.
Indeed.
Yep. So, Evie, what would you have to say?
I'm not sure if it is Asian, but it's Detective Pikachu.
It counts. I don't know if it does, but it does. It counts.
If it were animated, I would probably give a different answer, but yeah, we're doing live action.
Yep. But hey, so now it is time for ranking the Dragoness and the patent pending Dragoness Scale. And for this one, we're going to rank the Celestial Dragon / the Good Emoji. And this is Moogie, sorry. But this is very interesting because, it's not really a character per se. It's more of a, I guess you could say, Deus Ex Machina. But it does have a cool appearance. I like that it technically, Sarah becomes part of it. So it is a dragoness that in some way. So that is that counts in its favor. And I like its design. It's a simple Eastern dragoness design, but sometimes simplicity is the best. That being said, it really is more of a plot device than anything else, or she is more of a plot device rather than anything else. So I can't really go any further than, and if I'm being really generous, maybe a little more than I should be, I'm going to give her a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, that's
really,
pretty interesting.
The reason I say is because I do think for the very short screen time that she has at the end, I do like that she seems to have compassion for Ethan once Sarah passes away. By the fact that she sheds a tear and she stares at him in that, like longingly almost. That is a good character detail, which is, again, a point in her favor as well. So I'm going to give her a 6 out of 10 in that case.
All right. That's fair.
So, Angron, what did you give her?
In the time she appears, it's pretty amazing. I will say that. But it's a fun. It's a fun design. I like what it did in the beginning, and it becoming the Celestial Dragon was very much amazing. And the build up to it, was a little non-existent, but it was still pretty decent. But I'm gonna have to agree. It really needed more time to show up, and we needed more of it, to be honest. So for that reason, I'm also gonna give it a 6 out of 10. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with it as well. So, Math, what do you have to say?
I'm gonna keep it going with a 6. Basically, everything that I said last week, reverse that, and that's the stuff here. The visuals look great on the Celestial Dragon. Mostly. This is a personal taste thing. I did not like the unhinged snake jaw on the Celestial Dragon. That looked weird to me, but that's a personal taste thing. I can see how some people might like that idea. I actually did like the little transformation they did where the Goodamugi just shed its skin and became the Celestial Dragon. That was kind of neat.
Definitely. Sorry.
What?
Yeah, that's I was gonna say that was a really nice detail with her shedding her skin like a snake.
I don't count Sarah as a personality in this because Sarah is her own character, so we don't really get anything with the Goodamugi though, other than it comes and here I come to save the day kind of stuff. There's nothing to this. It's I'm gonna keep going back to this well. Giant monster, and that's it. We got nothing from this character except for that one tear shed at the end to show a bit of personality, but I attribute that more to Sarah than anything else. So there's just nothing to this character. For as much personality as last week's dragon had, and for as shit as it was, like I said, it's the exact opposite here. It looks great. There, we got nothing for personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely can see that. So, Jordan, what would you have to say?
The movie was good. If they would have kept it Japanese or Korean, I would definitely like it the way it is, what it would have been. But having it being Western and Japanese mix, I'm like, you have me, then you lose me, then you have me again. It's just back and forth. I'm like, where's the exciting part? The fightings were good. It's just that you just lose me in and out of all this boring stuff. So I'm just gonna say 6 because it doesn't reel me into the ending of the whole climax, which was really cool. How we have two gods fighting over one person, and then she gives herself up, and the transformation is good. Everything else at the end was just great, and then that does it. I agree that I'm gonna have it at 6, like you guys have it at.
Okay, that's good. And Evie?
I guess 6 is.
Okay, so wow, that is I think one of the rare times the character has gotten the same score from everybody. That has only happened a very few times on this podcast.
Indeed.
Last time it happened, believe it or not, was with Bamboo Bears with I, which is made by North Korea. So both the North Korean and South Korean Dragoness got the same score from everybody. So talk about coincidence there.
I guess.
Yep, at least there's that. So, if you have any questions, or if you would like to send us better subtitles for the movie than the ones we got, you can feel free to email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com or visit us on twitter.com at twitter.com/fierydiscourse.
Nice.
Next time is our 50th episode. We have done 50 of these things, and we are going to do many, many more in the future because we're enjoying this far too much. So for our 50th, we're going to discuss something very, very special, and that's going to be the oldest thing we ever cover on the podcast. At over 110 years old this year, we're going to be talking about the 1914 animated short Gertie the Dinosaur.
Technically 110, but absolutely
110,
old.
rather, yeah. Doesn't matter, but yeah, 110-year-old film, Gertie the Dinosaur. Winsor McKay, probably one of the most influential pieces of animation ever in existence. And we are going to have a lot of fun talking about this because this is, I mean, there is so much to talk about with this and with basically history in general. And
the first animated dinosaur, I think.
Technically, she is the first animated female dinosaur on screen. I don't know who the first animated dragoness would be on screen. We'd probably have to look that up. But yeah, for the 50th, we're going to do something big, and it doesn't get bigger than a Gertie. So that'll be next week's, though. And we thank you guys so much for listening to this one. Until next week, take care.
Later.
Bye.
Adios.